Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it's great to hear your voice again.
Dang it. I wrote that down. I was going to make sure I said that to you first, and you got, dang it.
Sorry, Chief, I gotcha. Would you like to explain the joke? Because that always makes jokes funnier.
No, at least I'm 0 for 2 now. I've started out 0 and 2 on this show. Yes, the great to hear your voice. That was Tom's impression of Kevin Warren during the press conference of the Alliance, where every time he would talk to one of the many reporters who wrote about how great he was doing last year, he mentioned that, hey, Heather, it's great to hear your voice. Hey, Dennis, Pat 40, great to hear your voice. Great to hear your voice. I love the sound of your voice. I don't know if he went to those lengths, but yes. Yes, thank you, Tom, for beating me to that punch. So let us talk about this alliance between the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 12. Tom, we were watching
Big 10. Big 12 wasn't invited to the party.
I'm sorry. I'm watching Oklahoma State on the television right now.
It's the no bigs club. They can have Big 10. They can have the Big 10, but you can't have two bigs. So there's.
Well, and we'll get to the poor Big 12 later, because these guys are just, they're done. I don't know how done, pretty done. But so for what is this alliance? And we were watching the presser and waiting for answers. And, they're going to do a bunch of stuff, kind of a student council-y thing. Like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to make, chewing gum is going to be allowed in the 4th grade, and we're going to make sure that we get, no more Friday school. And they've got all of these plans, and I don't know what they're going to do to enact them, but I'll ask for your thoughts here, Tom, on all of this. But to me, it just felt like these were, like 3 teenage girls, like brushing each other's hair and basically getting together to talk about how much they hate Becky being like the SEC and ESPN. But what did you think of the alliance? What do you think they're going to accomplish? Just, your initial thoughts on that presser.
Oh, Tony, there were so many details. Where to begin? I mean, there's going to be an alliance. It's 3 conferences that really have common viewpoints on doing the right things for college football and for college sports in general, and improving the student athlete experience. And where to begin with all the specifics? I don't even know. I can't even think. If we went through all the specifics we heard, I mean, this would be a 6-7 minute podcast, and that would mostly be us wrapping up the show. So I guess my big takeaway was, when people, when something bad happens and people say, well, what are we going to do? I don't know, but we have to do something. The alliance, I call it backpack for Big 10, ACC, Pac-12. If you follow Tony on Twitter, you get that. I don't need to explain that joke. The alliance is, well, the SEC did a thing, and it's better than anything that we've done. And, the Big 10 looks like, well, they got beaten to getting Texas, and the ACC and the Pac-12 look like, well, what is this going to do for the future of college football? Because we don't make as much money as the Big 10 and the SEC. So, we have to have an answer. When someone asks, what are we going to do about this? We have to have an answer. And so the answer is, well, we're doing the alliance with the Big 10 and the Pac-12. And so now we have an answer. And that's as far as the conversation got. It was like, okay, well, we're gonna do what's right for college football and for college sports and the student athletes in general. And we're gonna stand up to the people who don't do right. We're not going to name them, but it's definitely the SEC and ESPN. And what's right? Like, well, I mean, it's what's right for the student athletes. That's what we mean by what's right. And so, yeah, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do it all together because we have an alliance. That's it. There you go. Now you're up to speed. You got the whole hour of press conference right there.
Yeah, what you really need to know is that this is a shared collective vision, academically and both athletically, and it's about the student athletes. and the athletes who are also students. And it's about collectively coming together and giving them an opportunity to keep doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, compete in sports. There was sort of the general undertone of every TV commercial from like April or May 2020, where it was, in these uncertain times, back then it was Burger King telling you that, you stay safe, we're all in this together. And now it's Kevin Warren and George Kliavkoff telling you like, well, the Alston case and NIL and, Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. Like, we're not actually going to say Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, but we're just going to say instability within college football. In these uncertain times, it's important that we all stick together. Have it your way. It's like, well, okay, that's literally just a Burger King commercial from 15 months ago. Like, what are we doing here? Like, is this really it? Can I go brush my dog and talk about how much I hate the SEC too? Like, I don't know. Like, what are we even doing here? And the answer is nobody seems to know, even the people who put on the press conference.
I did like the point where Kevin Warren yelled, like, "Hey, Greg Sankey, where's the beef?" And then he did the DX crotch chop. that was pretty emphatic and awesome. I must say, like, I did not expect that, but now I have much more respect for the man after doing that. I'm okay with them getting together. They talked about the uncertainty and the tumultuous nature. It almost feels like they're on the Titanic and they see the iceberg, and then these three dudes like jump into a lifeboat well before like any iceberg ever gets hit. And
come on. When has the Big Ten ever done anything stupid and impulsive way before it needed to? Can you cite me one example, please, sir, or retract your statement and apologize to the conference?
I will cite the example last year when Kevin Warren jumped out and was in the lone dinghy and he saw the Titanic like veer and totally missed the iceberg and then just keep going. And then he started to paddle, and he had to really paddle and catch up with that boat. And he didn't quite catch up, but he almost made it. But I do completely get the idea of wanting to slow everything down at this point. And you get this voting block that basically the SEC went out in front and they've got ESPN behind them, or ESPN has the SEC behind them. I think at this point, they are the yin and yang of college football. That's what this is about. It's not about the student athletes. It's not about, academics. It's about TV money and the playoffs and the playoff expansion. And because everything was going great until that 12-team thing came out, and then Oklahoma and Texas left for the SEC, and poor old Bob Bowlesby spending weekends and days with Greg Sankey talking about these playoffs. And it's like, Tom, I don't know if you're on TikTok, but I watch a lot of TikTok because I have nothing else to do. But there's this magician who will say, "Hey, did you see a card trick?" And the person who saw a card trick says, "Yes, you did a great card trick." Then he serves them like, "Do you want your watch back?" Because he also stole their watch while he was doing this card trick. And now it's like Greg Sankey's like, "Hey, Bob Bowlesby, do you want your watch back?" And Bob's like, "Yes, I would." And then Sankey's like, "No, I'm just keeping it. And also, I'm going to keep your wallet. And I'm going to go ahead and take Oklahoma and Texas here. But but thank you for helping me out with this 12-team playoff." And now, like, the rest of the other commissioners and the athletic directors and the presidents, they see all of this going on, and I think they just had to put a stop to it and reassess where everything stands. Because if they don't, now you're allowing, like, if they're rushing off to the playoffs or to the expansion of the playoffs before the TV contract runs out, you're giving the sole negotiating rights to ESPN, which only makes ESPN more powerful and only makes the SEC more powerful. So I think this whole thing, this alliance, was as much about ESPN as it was the SEC.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%, because these are three leagues that are right now about all that they know is that they don't want what sure seemed like it was inevitable 2 months ago. That's about as far as the thinking I think has gotten in this process. So it's like, okay, well, now if there's three of us, there's only a Power 5, and we'll see how long there's a Big 12. So it might be a Power 4 pretty soon. But if we have 3 votes, like, aha, I can do that math. we have three and everyone else has two. So we can steer the discussion. We can not have it all go to ESPN. We can have not all go to the SEC. And I'm sure people are going, well, the ACC has a TV deal with ESPN. Like, well, the ACC's TV deal with the ESPN is they get about $30-something million a year per team. They took an absolute haircut in that deal. It goes till 2036. This is an atrocious deal. And it was done solely because ACC wanted an ACC network. So, okay, you've got an ACC network now. You're getting paid $3.17 a year from now until the heat death of the universe. So great deal. Good job. You're locked in. Have fun. All right. Good luck. So they're not exactly keen on ESPN right now either. Pac-12, Big Ten, they have TV deals with Fox. Fox pays them both a lot of money. Guess what? Fox would like to probably bid on the college football playoff. So maybe that'll actually be able to happen if they actually let it get to the end of the cycle and then bid it out. What's fascinating to me is there is an alternate timeline here where I'm just going to speculate out loud here that it was Texas A&M AD Ross Bjork who leaked to the Texas A&M beat writer that this all was happening as the moment that he found out that the Texas-Oklahoma thing to the SEC was happening. There's an alternate timeline where Ross Bjork, who is the Texas A&M AD, or whoever it was that leaked it to the Texas A&M reporter, hint, it was someone at Texas A&M who didn't like the fact that this was happening. If that doesn't happen, if that doesn't come out, then maybe this deal does get rubber stamped, playoff deal gets rubber stamped, and then the Texas-Oklahoma to the SEC deal comes out, and then the SEC's like really set up like kings forever. Didn't happen. The news came out. You know, everyone is sort of a little more aware of what's going on and a little more seeing the big picture here. So now it's like, okay, what else aren't they telling us? And, you know, you're slowing it down because, you know, yes, ESPN is your business partner, but, you know, theoretically the SEC was business partners with the Big 12 and then shivved them between the ribs. So, you know, not every business partner is a happy business partner who wants to see you succeed and is going to do everything they can to make you succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to a 12-team playoff, which the Pac-12 said they're absolutely in favor of the playoffs, of an expansion. Kevin Warren, I think he said he's pretty much in favor of it. The ACC will vote on it, and because they're not entirely sure yet, but it's going to go that way. But if you wait it out, which looks like is going to happen, now you have, I don't know how many games a 12-team playoff is, but you could open it up to, ESPN could get some, ABC could get, CBS, which loses the SEC, I believe, after 2022 or 2023. So they may want to get it back in the picture. Fox will, and maybe NBC throws some money, but you know how the Super Bowl, doesn't just stay with one network. Like that gets bid out, and you can't just allow ESPN to control that bidding because one, you're going to get lowballed, and two, you're going to get their narrative, and three, if all of these other networks are locked out of the playoffs, they're not going to promote it like college football would need it to be promoted. And so when you open it up to everybody, now you're talking about the playoffs on 60 Minutes. Now you're talking about the playoffs on, Married with Children or whatever Fox show's on right now. Stuff like that, where it's across all networks and brands. But if you just, college football was already getting a little too local in terms of like the SEC and just the southeastern part of the nation. And then if you limit it to just one network, now it becomes even smaller. And it's a big country. College football could be the number 2 sport in the nation at times. And you don't need it to be so small. It's okay to let it get bigger. And because again, Tom, this is about the student athletes.
Of course, it's about the student athletes and definitely not about money in amateur athletics because amateur means that you're not getting paid. So therefore, that's obviously not what it's about. So yeah, it is. The regionalization of college football is an issue. And the fact that college football has allowed TV to drive literally everything for the last couple decades has it's been great in terms of getting more money into the sport. And that's great. But unless you are an athletic director or a head coach or an assistant coach, that doesn't really improve your life at all that much. Yeah, it gets the players a nicer locker room and sure, okay, but the fan experience, it's a fantastic viewing experience on TV. The in-stadium experience, Ohio State has a whole bunch of public tickets. Ohio State can't wait to tell you how many public tickets they would love to sell you this year. And it wasn't that long ago that you needed to have You needed to have make a $2,500 or higher donation to the Buckeye Club for the privilege of purchasing Ohio State season tickets. Now it is the mirror test. Can you fog this mirror? Great. Would you like to pass? Would you like to buy some Ohio State season tickets? No. Can we interest you in a 4-game pack or a 3-game pack? How about some single game tickets? Are you a member of our alumni association? No. Well, that's okay. Do you have a credit card? Great. All right. Come right in.
They'll take monthly installments on season tickets.
This is not an Ohio State problem. This is everywhere. This is every college football program is going through that issue right now. Part of that is the in-stadium experience, the home viewing experience has gotten better. Like the TV broadcasts keep getting better. It is, it's fun to watch on TV. You get, you're not watching on your grainy, 20-inch TV in your dorm room, watching standard definition and going, which team is which again? I can't really tell. That's one problem. The other problem is it costs $20 to park, and where you're parking is on West Campus, and then you have to take a bus over, and then you go to the game. And then if you want a beer, it costs $13. And if you want a hot dog, well, I'm just going to get a bottle of water. Well, that's $4. And it's a TV timeout now. And there's another TV timeout coming after the kickoff. And then there's another TV timeout coming 2 minutes after that. And there's a lot of sitting there and listening to commercials for Allstate on the scoreboard and listening to the guy go, T-shirts. And it's just not that fun, and it's really expensive, and it's not, it is not, going to a game in person is not as fun as it used to be. And that is a function of TV getting prioritized over literally everything else. So everyone's rich, but there probably needed to be some long-term thinking that went beyond, what if we made more money? Like, what if what makes people, go back to when you were a kid and maybe going to a game. You've talked about going to spring games and, going to a game. That's where you start forming bonds with, your memories, and you're going with your family, and it's a fun memory. And then you want to do that with your kids. Well, okay. If you're not going, the kids who are not going now, when they have kids, guess what they're not going to do? They're not going to go to games. Like this is a problem that is only going to get worse, and the stadium is not going to get smaller. So then you have a problem, and they are relying on ticket revenue, and they're relying on parking revenue, and they're relying on concession revenue, and they're relying on Buckeye Club revenue that was, used to come in reliably because you needed to pay Buckeye Club revenue fees to get season tickets. Well, now you don't have to do that. You can just get season tickets. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has been made worse by the focus on TV, but hey, everyone's getting rich, so that's fine.
Well, and I think Ohio State's stance, and I'm sure all the other athletic directors' stances as well, it would be, yeah, we may not be sold out, but 92% capacity with very expensive tickets is still works for us. And I wonder what that threshold is. Is it 85,000? Is it 90,000? Like where is it for each individual program? And then what do they do to fix that? Because they're not going to lower tickets much. And so, and it's just hard to compete with the television package, with the TVs that we have now and things like that. Because, back in the day, you get 5 games on TV. That was all it was allowed. Before that, it was just 3 games. Before that, it was like 1 game. And I know all of those old timers back then, they knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen like this. That's why they were afraid of television. They didn't want to let it in. But it's been a net positive. But there's just so much money that they keep grabbing it. What I do, I want to hear what you have to say about this, because I think this alliance confirms to me that there's an SEC, there's an ESPN, an SEC bias at ESPN. And that because if there wasn't, then there wouldn't be so much concern about ESPN from these other conferences. And they know that if they just leave it to one network, that network is going to control so much of the narrative as they already do. And so, like, I know it's not always an SEC bias in terms of what ESPN does, but there's examples all throughout the years that have created this, I don't know, meme, conspiracy theory, whatever it is, but this to me is confirmation that it's not all hogwash. There's always some hogwash with conspiracy theories, but clearly these guys were concerned.
Clearly they are concerned. And, yes, the ESPN is has a business deal with the Big Ten. And yes, the ESPN has a business deal with the ACC, but also these conferences are clearly concerned. And these conferences, ESPN had a business deal with the Big 12 to some degree, right? Too. So, and they shivved them straight between the ribs. So that's that is, and of course, no one is implying that ESPN had anything to do with that decision. That was purely the SEC. That's fine. No one is. I'm not trying to suggest any untoward there, but somehow the knife ended up between Bob Bowlesby's ribs. I'm not here to assign blame here. So
one in a million shot, Doc.
Yeah. Fusily Bowlesby, one of my favorite Seinfeld episodes. Yeah, it's the narrative shaping in that piece of things for ESPN it's like, yes, this is almost unquestionably a thing. And you look at how Fox is now counter programming ESPN in some ways, and if you want to hear people say nice things about Ohio State and the Big Ten, you can rely on Joel Klatt to say nice things about Ohio State and the Big Ten, because guess what? Joel Klatt's televising all those Ohio State games at noon. And right before that, the big noon Saturday kickoff is can't wait to tell you nice things about Ohio State and the Big Ten. And, meanwhile, you flip over to game day and they're saying nice things about Ohio State. Are they saying nice things about the Big Ten? No, they are not. They are not even pretending that Purdue is a thing. Like, that's just not a thing they talk about. They cannot wait to tell you about, the Auburn guy who, the Auburn guy who his tractor story. We'll skip it with Seinfeld, the Auburn guy with his tractor story and how he's overcome that. And now he's a starting linebacker, and it's just great. And, it really does just mean more, doesn't it? And, hey, look, Lee Corso is going to put on a mascot head, and all right, great. Isn't that fantastic? And boy, there's nowhere like the Grove. And oh boy, it's a primetime kickoff in Death Valley. And oh baby. And you know what you're going to get. Like, it's just every year when the college football playoff selection shows come out, the narrative is always the same. And Kirk Herbstreit is always on TV telling you the same basic things about the same basic teams. And, you can find lots of examples of that. And you can't find counter arguments. You really can't find counter examples on a lot of that stuff. So you go to Fox and you see it there. So it's just like everyone kind of has their thing now, and you can assign whatever motives you want to with that, but that's just kind of where it is. And so, yeah, it is not completely crazy for the Big Ten to think like, they may not always have our best interests in mind, even if we do have part of a TV deal with them and part of a TV deal with Fox.
I'm getting a little scared because it's like a CNN, Fox News type of thing that's starting to leak into college football with the Big Ten and the SEC in terms of, I want this, I'd prefer this coverage. I'd like to hear something good about my side. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting. Tom, let me ask you this. How does this sound to you? Big Ten football on CBS. See, I see your face. You're like, it's an odd taste. It's like, it's like lemonade with like Pepsi and then a little bit of coffee. And it's just, it's all wrong. It's odd.
I'm not sure I'm ready for Gary Danielson calling Ryan Day Ryan and talking about how he's just, Ryan loves this. And let me tell you, no one coaches like Ryan. And oh man. And I don't think it'll come across quite as genuinely affectionate as it is when he says Nick instead of Ryan. But I'm sure those paychecks will cash just fine, and he'll be able to say the nice things about the Big Ten just the way he does about the SEC. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this next Big Ten TV deal goes, because everyone's going to want the Big Ten because Ohio State is part of the Big Ten. And so it is going to be a very competitive bidding process, and it'll be fascinating to see I'm sure Fox wants them, and I'm sure Fox is going to pony up a lot of money to keep them. So then, are they going to split it like they did the last time? Are they going to, and if they do split it, is it Fox and CBS? Is it Fox and ESPN? Is it Fox and Hulu? Like, we'll find out. It's going to be, that's coming up sooner than you think. So I am fascinated to see what happens there. But you're right. I mean, it is the all the stupid things that are screwing up society in general are now screwing up college football too. It's great, but hey, everyone's making a bunch of money, so it's fine.
Well, I wonder, can a team even can a network conference afford to be off of ESPN's network and ABC? Like, can they afford that? Because then, like when ESPN didn't have hockey or they didn't have the NBA, those sports almost ceased existing on the network. When they had arena football, you had Mike and Mike breaking down arena football because it's part of the network, and so it's you need a wider, broader voice over all of the game, but ESPN's voice is still going to be loudest. So I don't know that you can go away from it. So it's almost like ESPN knows, like, we're still going to get ours, but you can't. I think it'll be Fox or whatever, and Fox and the Big Ten seem to be working together. Although that big noon kickoff might be a stickler down the road. I want to ask you about the Big 12 because it seems like I don't know what they're going to do. And the three commissioners were asked about it. Like, hey, do you feel bad about the Big 12? And Kevin Warren was like, well, I'm sure they're smart people. They'll know what to do. They'll figure it out. And you had Jim Phillips saying, yeah, we're very concerned and we're going to be watching what they do. Now, they're going to be watching from, like, they're seeing something happen across the street from their house, and they're looking at the curtains, out the curtains at it. And then, they see somebody being stabbed and they're like, oh dear. Then they close the curtains and they're like, I can't watch TV now. I'm too wired. I better, just have a beer and sit out, on the back porch because I don't want to know what's going out there. And just to see the Big 12 being left by the SEC, by Oklahoma, by Texas, and then the Big 12 is like talking to the Pac-12, and they were talking, I think, to George Kliavkoff, and that apparently was like, I envision it like, say Grover Dill from A Christmas Story gets beat up by Scott Farkas, his best friend and the main bully. He gets beat up by Scott Farkas, and he's like, you know what, I'm through with you. And then he goes and tries to be friends with like Ralphie and Flick and Schwartz, being the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC. And they're like, no, you chose your path, and now you have to deal with it. And Bob Bowlesby's like, come on, guys, come on, let's, we're just kids, we're just joking.
And we can't live in the past. That was 10 minutes ago. We can't live in the past like that. Yeah, it was just kind of like, the real generic, like, well, we wish them well. Like, boy, I hope everything works out well for them. Like, are you gonna like bake them a casserole? They're real sick and in the hospital. Or are you gonna like bake their family a casserole and bring it over? Well, no, I mean, we've got a bunch of stuff this week. We got some more meetings about this alliance, so I don't really have time to like bring them a casserole. But we wish them well. So I don't know. What else are you looking for here, Gert? I don't know. I don't know what else am I supposed to do?
Well, we will send them the deli tray when we're done with it. How's that? And they can feast off of what we've done, what we didn't want, what we haven't finished. And so there's that. The scheduling aspect of it is interesting to me. I believe, and this was asked of Kevin Warren, I think the Big Ten should go back to 8 conference games. That way they can play an ACC team and a Pac-12 team every year. And then you can have your 2 either, a MAC, whatever. Plus, you've already got existing non-conference games that won't be changed. Those will still exist. So there may be some pretty impressive schedules down the road, but you're not going to be able to get those to the ACC and the Pac-12 like right away, because a lot of these future schedules are quite far in advance and full. But if you remove a conference game, then there's room to add one. And some of the future schedules don't have all of the non-conference games slated out yet. So they could add at least one of these teams, a Pac-12 team or an ACC team, by simply removing a conference game. Kevin Warren said they will look into that. Kliavkoff said that right now the Pac-12 is contractually obligated to play 9 conference games. their deal runs out in the 2023-2024 season. However, he said that he thinks there's some wiggle room because the games that they would replace them with would be just as attractive, probably more so. He didn't say that part. But I think the ESPN, the television partners, would be okay giving up, Stanford, Arizona State for Stanford, Wisconsin.
Rutgers.
Yeah, well, maybe not. I mean,
sir, we're friends with Rutgers now, so I don't know if that will change your mind on any of this stuff. I mean, yeah, I guess. This still kind of runs counter to, and here, let me share my thoughts on this. First of all, I don't think any of this gets to the point where this happens. And we're going to we can talk before we wrap up. I'm going to insist we talk about the airtight legal contracts written that bind everyone together for this. So we'll get to that next. But if you're in a conference like the SEC right now, where you're playing 8 conference games and you play your other 6 teams in your division, and you play one protected cross division rival, and you only get to play one of the other 6 teams in that other division every 12 years, you're not actually in a conference with those teams. Like Florida and Arkansas, they're going to Fayetteville once every 12 years. You're not in a conference. That's like an occasional non-conference game. I would rather see Ohio State play in Iowa City, in Minneapolis, in Madison, not Champaign, but like, Evanston, maybe. I mean, I would rather see that. Keep it at 9 games. Dump one of the crappy MAC games. I don't need to see Akron this year. I don't need to see Tulsa this year. Like, I don't care. Like,
fair.
And keep your conference games. And then I'm all for 2 good cross-conference data points, because when you're having the college football playoff conversation, one of the reasons that you can have every year the ESPN, every year, see, boy, that was a good Freudian slip. Every year the SEC, not the ESPN, every year the SEC is the best because, they have look at how many good teams they have. It's like, well, who are they playing out of conference? Like, what data do you have to compare teams across conference? Because, then sometimes they win bowl games, and then that shows the best. And then sometimes they lose bowl games, and that shows they didn't care. So it doesn't really, there's not, but that, and no lessons are carried forward till the next year, unless they win, in which case, did you see last year? Did you see what Kentucky did to Purdue in the Gator Bowl? How could you question anything? Like, okay. You want good cross-conference data points. So, Ohio State playing a good team from the Pac-12 and playing a good team from the ACC. Great. Like, that's fine. Have them play, home and home with Florida State and a home and home with UCLA, like whatever. That's fine. Like, establish some cross-conference data points, because then if the Big Ten goes 10-4 against the Pac-12, you have a pretty good sense that yes, the Big Ten probably is deeper than the Pac-12. And if they go 2-14 or 2-12 against the ACC, like, well, okay, the ACC obviously is a better conference this year. That's probably a fairly safe thing to say overall. That doesn't mean every team in the ACC is better than every team in the Big Ten, but it means if you want to measure the depth of the conference, that's at least a data point to draw some conclusions from. So I'm all in favor of, a couple of cross-division or cross-conference games, but let's not take intra-conference games away to do it. It seems like there's a much better way to do that, and that's not it.
No, there is a much better way to do that. That's why I don't expect it to be done.
Well, yes, there's that. Yes.
So I'm trying to be realistic in our fantasy booking of these conferences. Now,
welcome to Fantasy Island. Here's Bowling Green.
But you touched on it, and we'll wrap up here with there are no signed documents. There are nothing legally binding. These are just, guys being guys and agreeing on stuff, and presidents agreeing, and athletic directors, everybody just agreeing. And it's cool, man. It's free love. They don't need any binding, any contracts. They're together for life because, Tom, they have a shared vision, a collective, unified desire to stabilize college sports. So, and what if somebody wants to poach a a team from another conference, man, we're unified, man. And we don't, if we needed documents, was it Kliakov or was it, no, it was a Jim Phillips. And I will say it's probably good for the Big Ten that Jim Phillips they can rely on him, like maybe like they should have a couple of years ago, perhaps. But when he said, like, in my experience, if you have to have signed documents, then maybe the agreement isn't as strong as you thought. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess, but still, and I guess, Tom, I'll let you go with this. For there to be signed documents or for there to be an agreement, they have to have an idea of what they're going to do.
Well, there's that. Yes, you have to actually agree on something other than we have an alliance. Like if right now, if they had alliance and the 3 conference logos on there, like everyone would just boom, sign me up. Boom, we got it. Yeah. And maybe if there's like clause 1, friends forever, ! Like you probably could get them to sign that one. 2, doing things the right way. Great. All right. Got it. Yeah. 3, scheduling alliance ? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So we're not changing that punctuation. There is a question mark, right? Okay, good. Yeah. That was from the Big Ten perspective. That was the question that I was like, oh Lord, what is the answer to this going to be? Is there a signed contract? Is there an agreement not to poach? Because it's like right now the Big Ten is in the strongest possible position over these other 2. Like the Big Ten is the kid with the magnifying glass over both of those conferences right now, just waiting to burn the ants, because the Big Ten is making teams make $50-something million a year in TV contracts, and their deal's up very soon, and their deal's about to get a lot bigger. And whether that's $80 million a year or $100 million a year, it's going to get a lot bigger. The Pac-12 is making 33, something like that. Pac-12 and the ACC are both in the $30 million range. The ACC is locked in for the next 15 years. It's like 2035 or 2036, their deal runs out. The Pac-12 runs out in just a couple of years, but they're not going to go, they might go from 30-something million to 45 or 50 million, but it's still going to be 100 million to 50 or 80 million to 50. I mean, there's still a massive, the gap is only going to get bigger, even if the Pac-12 makes more money. So basically what that means is the Big Ten can basically take whoever they want, And, I know Jim Phillips isn't a big believer in contracts, but something tells me he will try to enforce the grant of rights that he has with all of his member teams in the ACC, which goes through 2035, 2036. I've had Nevada Buck on the Morning Scoop, who's had some insights on the fact that maybe that's not quite as iron tight as people think it is. But there's no grant of rights when the Pac-12, once that TV deal expires in a couple of years. So you want to go get Oregon, you want to go get USC, you want to go get Arizona or Utah or Colorado or Stanford or Cal or UCLA. I mean, who do you want? Who would you like? Because the answer is going to be yes, because you are going to give them so much more money than they're making right now that they would be idiots to say no. So to me, that was maybe the most encouraging thing from the Big Ten perspective, was they were not dumb enough to say, no, I will sign my name on not giving up, on not poaching from either of these conferences, because they can take whoever they want, whenever they want at this point. So why would you give that up for nothing? For the fact that, you got those lockets that they used to sell at Spencer Gifts or whatever, where it's like best on one side and friends on the other. Like, oh, well, look, Jim Phillips and I and Jim and George Kliavkoff and I, we both have these best friends, and they go together. So, but even when we're apart, we'll know he's got the other side of the necklace. So we're best friends. So totally worth giving up our right to, steal USC away. So that good job, Big Ten. You haven't screwed this up yet. So, but there's still time.
I did like Kliavkoff said, legal documents were never discussed. And I wonder if that's because the athletic directors and presidents in the Pac-12 were like, don't you sign anything. Don't you put our name on anything. Don't you dare lock us into something that we might want to be getting out of. Not that we would, but, just don't lock us into anything. Anything else, Tom, before we get out of here after discussing the alliance, or as you like to call it, backpack?
It's so good. I really do like it. It is really growing on me. Backpack. I looked at the backdrop behind all three commissioners, and they had the logos right there, and it was like, if it had a B and then an ACC and then a PAC, like I think I'm on board. I think I'm officially on board, and hopefully this backpack doesn't give anyone scoliosis.
Hopefully, but no promises. And we have certainly not signed any documents saying we won't. So, all right, that will do it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. Please check out BuckeyeScoop.com. If you are not yet a member, please become a member. We're getting an influx of memberships additions right now. So join the fray. Jump in right now. Season is, Tom, how many days away?
Once again, you were asking me on the wrong show. So today's Tuesday, right? Today's Tuesday. So 9 days. 9 days away. 9 days away.
I can do math.
See, I've already. What confuses me is I've already recorded the morning scoop for Wednesday, so I've already said it's 8 days away, but it's not 8 days away. It's really 9 days away. So.
Please, Tom, do not break down the fourth wall on this show. All right, there's just one rule here: we don't break down the fourth wall. So thank you all for listening. Also, YouTube.com/Buckeye Scoop, where you can all find all kinds of videos, all kinds of good videos, including stuff by us at Buckeye Scoop. So thank you guys, and we will talk to you later.